Hi, I'm Aaron. I sing in the band Bane from Boston.
Do you feel at all out of place in this tour?
No, not at all. We've been good friends with Comeback Kid for a long, long time. We've toured with Outbreak. We got to know the Misery Signals guys at the beginning of the year. We know a lot of these guys pretty well. And everyone's getting along. It just feels like a good mix of, extreme heavy music, like across the board. We don't feel out of place at all. We did a Hatebreed tour right when Perseverance came out. That was like, we were easily the wimpiest band on the whole tour. This is one of the biggest packages we've ever been on, as far as like 6 bands, 40-something people every day. It's like a big production, and that's kind of new for us. Playing venues this size consistently day after day is a little strange for us. But we've done it. Like we did, a Strung Out tour, we did a Good Riddance tour, we did that Hatebreed tour, so it's not like that new to us. And this is better than all of those put together because we're literally friends with all of the bands on the tour. The only band that we hadn't had a history with is Gravemaker, and by the second day we were in love with those guys. So yeah, we feel right at home. I'm sad it's ending. This is like I think it was only 4 days after today, and it just flew right by in a blink.
I was very disappointed to hear that you were supposedly breaking up.
Rumors seriously been following us for as long as I can remember. Since before the note, people have been talking about, is this your last tour? Is this your last record? We have never been to a place where we're breaking up. Those are just rumors. I don't know where they come from. We've had some slow periods in the last couple of years where we weren't going as hard as we've gone in the past, and people just make their own conclusions, I guess. But our band is together and healthy and excited about the future. I mean, obviously we're closer to the end than we are to the beginning, but we are talking about, as soon as this tour ends, the very next day we start a full US tour with H2O and Crewland. So that'll keep us busy until December. And then we go to Costa Rica for a weekend of festivals, and then we come back for the winter and we're going to write songs all winter, all December, and all January and see what we come up with. If we have an LP, if we have an EP. In 2009 looks like it's going to be as busy of a year as 2008.
It's amazing.
I hope. I hope kids are going to be psyched. I hope that we're not overstaying our welcome, that we're not becoming one of those bands that doesn't know that they're way past their expiration date, It scares me a little.
Like who?
Oh, I don't want to name names, but you know those bands. You both know the bands I'm talking about. That you're like, this band probably should have broke up 3 or 4 years ago. Just nobody's come and tapped them on the shoulder yet. I've made some of my very close friends promise to tap me on the shoulder and tell me when time is up, or when we just look completely ridiculous up there and we're just stumbling around looking like retards. Please, I won't hate you. Just pull me aside and tell me the hard truth. I don't know if they'll actually do it or not. Excuse me.
As one of the most inspiring lyricists and frontmen still around in hardcore.
Thank you very much for saying that.
Do you find that there is a lack of young people who are as inspired as you?
I think that this is a pretty good time right now for people really going the extra mile with lyrics and not being afraid to have things to say on stage. 5 years ago, you might have asked me that question, and my answer might have been a little more bleak. But now, with bands like Have Heart and Verse and Blacklisted, there are a lot of bands that really do have an agenda and are not afraid to stand for something and wear their hearts on their sleeves. And I'm just very relieved about that. I feel like the state of hardcore right now is pretty healthy. As far as bands being willing to fucking fight for something.
What are some of the issues that you're gonna, examine on the next record, if you've thought about that, or that you think about these days? I don't really do that. I don't really plan it in advance. I would have, honestly, you caught me off guard. I really haven't thought much about it. I mean, I think that a lot of it will be having to come to terms with having to let go of this and having to get to a place where I'm prepared to move on and see what's the next challenge is. What happens after this. It's been such a huge part of my life for 12 years now. But I definitely have things to say about hardcore and about, the state of just, a lot of this tough guy bullshit and a lot of people just being afraid to, stand up to the things that they know are wrong and crumbling all around them, which I think has been a common theme since, the earliest EPs. Just a deep love for hardcore and wanting it to just stay healthy and for people to give something to it,
instead of constantly be taken from it. You know what I'm saying? I don't think there'll be, too much radical departures, but I honestly never know. Like, the way it works is they write a song, they have the music, and that's when the fire gets lit under my ass, and then I start to really pressure myself. And I always have things to say, and I'm constantly just jotting notes or a line that will roll through my head that I think is strong that I won't want to forget. But I really don't write songs in advance. I just never work that way. I work best when I'm under extreme pressure. Like, the song is done and they're waiting for me, and then I'll take a week and really get serious about what. There's always something to say. There's a million things I'm pissed about. There's a million things I wish could be different. I don't feel like I'm going to be, digging too hard for something to fucking scream about.
But what are some of the things that are pissing you off these days?
Well, just like a general sense of apathy. There's just so much wrong, and there's just so much bullshit in our little community, and most people just seem to just be happy to swallow it and accept it as just like the norm. And it doesn't have to be. There's things that are just rotting from the inside. It's okay to talk about it and to examine it and to try to fix it. But, also, like I was just saying earlier, there's also a lot of things I'm really excited about as far as bands that aren't so concerned with fashion or fucking, just a lot of the petty bullshit that we were kind of caught up in a few years ago when everyone was singing about suicide and death and heartbreak, and it was just like, everyone was worried about how pretty their hair was. And that seems to sort of have faded away, Now hardcore bands are just hardcore bands for the sake of being hardcore bands. And I'm really excited about that. I think it's awesome.
Tough Guy Hardcore, what are some ways that we can become more aware of it in order to weed it out?
I mean, it just is what it is. And I just think that you don't have to play ball. You don't have to get involved in that stuff, especially to like younger kids. It's not necessarily the way things are supposed to be. You don't have to swallow the whole line that this is supposed to be about how hard you are and how dangerous it is, and this is supposed to have that edge of violence lingering around every corner. Like, I don't buy into that line. This can be about something way more beautiful and positive and passionate than just like how hard you can swing your fists around. And I think it just starts there with like how you want to perceive what this is supposed to be. You decide what you want to get out of this, how shallow or how deep it's going to run. And I think it sort of starts there. But one thing is just not biting the hook, not getting in fights and shows, not letting your ego overtake you to the point where you're ready to just throw down, where the cost can be a venue or a show or some kid going to the hospital who literally is grown up on the same music that you have. Just seems ridiculous to me. Like, being able to keep your ego and your macho bullshit in check long enough to say, hey, maybe I don't have to hit him because he bumped into me. Maybe this doesn't have to be a night-ending situation. I think those would be some really healthy first steps.
But like from the streets,
coming from a place of real danger, right?
And I'm not sure if everyone actually comes from the streets.
No, they don't.
So I mean, what kind of message would you have for people like that?
I mean, I just think that with punk rock and hardcore comes a lot of 16, 17, 18-year-old kids who are very impressionable, who are searching for their identity and who don't have a sense of who they are, of where they come from, and of what's next. And with this, the age that we're in, where you can connect to anything at any time, it's easy to sort of romanticize, this way of life. And I mean, there are kids that come from some fucking hard streets that are hardcore kids that have literally grown up with nothing, fighting for their lives. And these kids aren't just, this isn't an act for them, Like, there are kids in Philadelphia who are like hard as fucking nails, hardcore kids, and they can't help that they've never been able to break free of their environment or, where they come from. And I think that it's kind of easy, to look to kids like that, or kids in LA, kids that really fucking live it, and to just romanticize it all out of proportion to the point where you're some kid from Kansas City or from East Bumfuck, Canada, who thinks that that's the way to go, And that's just youth. That's just being a kid and not knowing who you are yet, And it just scares me that so many kids get caught up in it and then they can't break free, and the next thing they know, they're beating up on 15-year-old kids who don't dance cool or don't have the right shoes on and shit like that. I mean, that's when it gets awful.
Okay.